Hey, Brandon.
Hey,
We're here to learn a little bit today about who you are and your role at Affinitive and whatever else we might decide to talk about today. So I thought we might just get started and jump right in and tell us who you be and a little bit about the things that you do in the business arena.
well, that sounds good. I to tell you who I be and where I be, I think I have to tell a little bit about where I came from
Okay.
and how I arrived at this place. I spent, I've had about a 15-year career in financial services. I started in banking, and I found out at a very sort of unconscious, subconscious level, what I didn't appreciate about financial services. And it was a good career at the time. It paid the bills. I got a great deal of experience with sort of the financial world, which was very new to me at that point. And I had an opportunity to kind of grow into different roles within the bank. But as I eventually just came to a point where enough was enough, and I was very tired of a company that told me to tell people, that my clients, that it was all about the relationship, when really it was all about product sales and pushing the things that the company wanted me to push.
Mm,
I'd had enough with that and wanted a more profoundly impactful way to help people. Because all throughout my life, I have known very well that people are my passion, that I love being around people. I love helping people. And so I found my way into, a part of the industry that would equip me to help people in a more profound way, in the way that I wanted to help them and in the way that they wanted to be helped,
hmm.
which was a critical component. Um, and nonetheless, that my career in insurance investments and financial advisory started with another big box finance company. I will say this: as far as big box finance goes, that company was just about as good as they get.
Hmm.
Um, but nonetheless, as I progressed through my career, I came to figure out that the confines of that weren't going to allow me to really serve people in the way that they wanted to be served. And at that point of my career, which was about, I guess, about 2 years ago, that was a pandemic inspired shift for me,
Sure.
a pandemic inspired realization that I think a lot of us have had, and I listened to that inspiration. I really found the place that I wanted to be through some sort of, I guess you could call it, divine intervention. Our mutual friend, Miss Kate, invited me to meet someone, her cousin, who you know very well, Richard Gordon, our CEO and the CEO and founder of Affinitive. And at that time, Affinitive was an idea in his mind, and he had done a lot of the pre-work, if you will, to set that company up. But what really came out of our meeting was an immediate acknowledgement of the alignment that he and I had in values and in our sincere desire to help people. We love people and we want to help all the people, and we realize, both of us, that sort of the existing structures of big box finance weren't really designed to do that. And so he said, Brandon, I would love for you to be the ambassador, the client ambassador, the ambassador for the client and the ambassador for the company. And so we work together to really refine and shape up what could this company be? How can we show up in such a way that we bring equitable access to the service that every person should have access to, right? I mean, meaningful and experienced expertise and guidance and management of their money. We both knew that the existing structures of financial guidance and investment management were really designed and aimed specifically at people that had lots of money. And those people are already being served. There are plenty of advisors out there that want to and are clamoring for that business. And what we realized was everybody else deserves that same level of expert investment management. And Affinitive was born. I mean, he really has built such a beautiful infrastructure and model that I am honored, to be a part of stewarding and really kind of bringing out to the masses, to everybody, so that they can all benefit from, expert guidance, expert management, and heart infused into that. So the role that I serve is client ambassador, the man of the people. I like to say.
I love it.
You know,
And this role seems so much more in alignment with who you are as a person, because some of what you were sharing, in prior roles is the lack of recognition for the human component to this. And money can be really scary for people, and I think that they need a little more hand holding than the average situation might afford them. So tell me a little bit about that, because I definitely see your role as being the real heart of the business. And I see that reflected in how, even when you're sharing information, you pull your heart and you make it applicable to people. So I guess let's first talk about, why is money so scary to some people, and how do you make it less scary?
I think there is a component of fear connected to money, like regardless of how much you have, what your socioeconomic status, your ethnic background, like no matter what your station in life is, there is a component of fear for a vast majority of people. And that's what I came to find, right, through my capacity as financial advisor and in my continued sort of journey into really helping people kind of unpack that stuff. What I realized as I sat through conversation after conversation with all the people that I've been, fortunate enough to serve and support, is that when we have those conversations, like a fraction of them is actually the dollars and decimal points, right? It's so much more about there's not enough money, or I have so much that everybody just wants me for it, and like all of these different components. And so, it just became like really, really apparent for me that part of the conversation was the lion's share, that people really needed and wanted to unpack that stuff, come to terms with, or come to understand like why they felt that way about money, or why money made them feel that way, and to really kind of just gain more control over their relationship with money. And so, for me, the only way, in my experience, to really get into those levels of change and mindset shift, we need a level of comfort and understanding with the person that we're talking to, or else if we don't feel safe, we're never really going to go to those depths and those levels. And so, I strive really, really hard to help people understand that I am a person who wants to hold a safe space for them to be able to unpack that kind of stuff. And it's the old adage, right, of like, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I care. I care about people. I care about their well-being. And a part of that well-being is their relationship to money. It just happens to be that I'm in that industry, and that I have knowledge and experience in it. And so, the heart is not only the core of our existence, but it is bringing that heart to every conversation. It's just, well, that's just how I do. That's just who I be.
Yeah. And yeah, I totally think that's evident in the way that you serve. And I'm curious, would you say that one of the very first places of, maybe coming into a better understanding of your relationship with money maybe goes back to some of the stories that you carry around it?
Mhm. I mean, I know it does. I know it does for me. I know it has for me. And, I've done a great deal of work to continued work to kind of understand that, and to come to terms with it, to acknowledge things and set them aside. And so, yeah, I would say absolutely. Look, I grew up in a household that did not talk about money. I know I'm not alone in that
Oh
circumstance,
yeah.
right? I mean, in
Same for
conversations,
me.
yeah, that you and I have had, right? We both know that sort of our childhood experience, right, around money and with money has certainly come to inform our current relationship to it. And I mean, not only did we not talk about money, there was no like actual conversations around, here's how you use a credit card, or here's how you balance a checkbook. Or, I mean, my parents weren't balancing a checkbook, let me tell you, because the conversations that I overheard about money
Right.
were at a very high volume most often, right?
Right.
There were fights around there's not enough, or you're spending too much, or, how are we going to pay this bill? Or, right. So, I mean, these are the conversations that I think a lot of us grew up hearing. And
Yeah.
that's unfortunate because it really colors. It colors our relationship and the way that we interact with and use our money as we come into our youth through into our adulthood. And so that's one of the things that's really important for me is helping people to kind of like, and here's one of the things that I really love to do as I'm in kind of the initial phases of a relationship with a professional relationship with somebody, and helping them in this way is to have them close their eyes and think back to the earliest memory, whether positive or negative, right? To really remember that experience and how that shows up in their body and what that makes them feel. Because those earliest memories are often the ones that at a very, very subconscious level inform how we show up, whether
Mm.
that's with money or in romantic relationships or professional relationships, all the things. So yeah, I find that money story, that sort of history with money, to be one that is really, really important to come into conscious awareness, so that
Mhm.
we can kind of start, to build a better one.
That's really powerful. And I think sometimes it's easier to come in touch with, like, remembering back growing up. I do remember, or it's very obvious to me that, money was never talked about. But I also carry these stories that aren't as easy to get in touch with. And only through the last, few years of somebody actually asking me some of exactly what you said, that I uncovered some other things. Like, my dad worked a lot, so I had this belief that you had to sacrifice family for money. And I also carried another big belief that you should be grateful for what you have, and
Mm,
that really damaged my ability to create abundance.
mm,
And I so get that. And for me, being money is so scary. I absolutely need somebody to take that scary factor away. And definitely one of my biggest relationships in life is my relationship with money.
mm.
And I notice that when I'm aware of it, I'm aware of it. And when I'm not aware of it, things get neglected.
Yeah.
I know, Brandon, that you're really passionate about equipping parents, how they can better speak to their children or open up the conversations about money. Why don't you share with us a little bit about, some of the ways that, you are passionate there, and how you serve in that area?
Mm. I mean, this is just like this is very akin, right, to that part of addressing our own adult relationship to money, right? I mean, because we can't share what we don't have, and so if
Exactly.
we
Exactly.
don't have a positive relationship with money, it's really, really well, it's not difficult, it's impossible, right, for us
Yeah.
to start to foster a positive relationship with money for our children. And so it really starts there. But as we sort of like journey into that for those people who do have children, which is, a lot of the people that I serve, look, I'm a parent. I have two beautiful young daughters who share my stubbornness and my hard-headedness and all of that. And it's been really important for me to try and share experiences with them and my knowledge and all of that around money, and give them opportunities to like form a conscious relationship with money. And so that it starts with the parents, right, and really working with them to foster a better, more positive, right, and functional relationship with money, because then they want that for their children, right? We all want the best for our kids, and for them to have a positive relationship with money doesn't necessarily mean that there's millions of dollars at their disposal, or some crazy high level of wealth, right? It's just to understand and be conscious of how we use our money, how we spend it, and how we save it, and what credit is, and all of that. And so over the years, I've formed some great coursework for parents to help to give their children opportunities to engage with money, understand how it
Yeah.
works, and all of that. And as we take those conscious steps, right, even if our relationship isn't fully right with money, as we start to give our kids those opportunities, and start to consciously offer those opportunities for them to understand how it works and how we work with it, we learn too, right? So our
Yes.
relationship gets better as we help to offer those opportunities for our kids.
Agreed. Very much so. All right. Let's tell me a little bit about, affinitive in general. Is it just for people that are interested in investing? Unpack for me what it looks like, for me to begin my journey with relationship towards money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as it comes to actual investment of our dollars, right? I think it's something that we all understand. If we want to, if we want to be able to retire someday, we want to have money at our disposal to be able to live the lifestyle that we want. We have to invest, right? We have to grow our money, and the one of the key areas to do that, right, is through investments, investing in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all the things, right? And at Affinitive, as I kind of pointed to before, right, we're really designed to bring humanness to the world of investing and growing our money. And so we've made it just extremely easy. The barriers to entry are extremely low, right? There are no barriers to entry on our side of things, right? We may, other people may come to that with some of their own barriers, right? But that's
Sure.
a different story. But we've eliminated any kind of minimum, so there are no account minimums. I mean, you could start your account with $25, right? You can
Oh,
contribute $5 a month to that account, and you're going to have the same level of expert guidance, management of those investments, and the same level of attention and heart brought to you as the person who rolls over, their $100,000 IRA, right? Or bringing your $2,000 or $3,000 IRA over to us to allow us to guide it, manage it, and give you the best opportunity and positioning for growth. You're going to get the same attention, right, as anybody else who might have more money, because really the foundation of why we do things is about you. It's about the human.
Right.
We care more about the human than we do about their money. Obviously, the money is important, right? That's the capacity that we're serving, but ultimately, I mean, we want to help support the whole human, and so we do that through the media pages, through the content that we post on the site, all the articles, which you'll find, some are about money, some are not, and that's just because our whole life isn't about money. There's so much more there, and so at Affinitive, our sincere goal is to bring equitable access to high level expert investment management, so that some of that fear, right, that component of fear, is taken out of the equation, because you can know that your money is protected through that guidance, through that expert management, and through the experience of those who are creating the portfolios and managing the portfolios. So it really, taking that fear component out of it, gives reassurance, sense of peace of mind of knowing I've got, I, Joe Jane investor, have a guide at the helm, right? A steward that is at the helm of my investments to ensure that I'm positioned well, that I'm, my investments are aligned with my values, and my goals for growth. So, I mean, it's such an inspiring place to be for me. Like, it's so refreshing, coming from where I've come from in the industry. It's just really, really refreshing to be able to serve in this way, and to really bring humanity into something that has really become cold and mechanical and robotic, and less about the people and more about the money. And that's just not how life works.
Right. One of the things you mentioned cleared up a misconception for me. You said you don't have to invest a whole lot to start. And I'm curious, that was a big thought of mine. What are some other common misconceptions that people have around the things that you do there?
I think because of like this, the status quo, right? The traditional model of investment management and financial advisory, people believe that they don't have enough to make it worth it. They don't have enough in their retirement account or their investment account for it to be worth it to have that management, because that's what the industry has told them, right? In like the de facto message from the financial industry is, if you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars, you're just not worth our time. And that's illustrated through far too many financial advisors out there, and far too many companies out there. There is no abundance of financial advisors in that traditional model that are beating down the door of people that have a $500 IRA, because they have to do the same amount of work for your $500 IRA as they do for somebody's $500,000 IRA, right? So they can make more money on that than they can on yours with the same amount of attention. And, so to some degree, I guess I won't fault them, but, we're all aware of how we operate, right? And so like for us, it's that misconception is one that we just want to completely destroy. You're worth it. Your $50 IRA is worth just as much to us as your $50,000 IRA or $500,000 IRA. So that's one that we are working really hard through the way that we show up to affirm for people that regardless of how much, it's worth it and you deserve it. So that's a major one. I think the other one that I think we illustrate through our fees, right, is that people think, well, it's too expensive, right? It's going to cost me a whole bunch of money, and I don't know if that's worth it. And so what we've done is we've streamlined fees and brought them down to such a level that it's in line with the level of attention and effort and all of that, and it's reasonable. So, it's pretty standard for a financial advisor to charge 1.5% up to 2% and more, right? It depends on the advisor. They get to sort of decide what their management fee is. For us, it was, let's bring this expert and experienced investment management at scale to everybody. Because when we do that, we can charge a reasonable fee for everybody, and it's win-win-win, right? Everybody wins, because at just over 0.5% for the same level of management that you're going to get at other places, fees matter. They really matter.
Yeah.
And so, 0.55% is all we charge. There are no trade fees. There's no brokerage fees. There's no additional fees. It's just straight up 0.55%, regardless of what your balance is. Everybody has the same costs. And again, I mean, that's going back to that equity piece, right? We want to make sure that everybody has access to this kind of guidance and management. So I think those are a couple of the real key ones that we work hard to sort of break apart for people and just get rid of those misconceptions and educate people.
You certainly cleared up, for me, my curiosity around how much it's going to cost me. And sometimes we tend to be lazy or we're intimidated. So we don't take that step to first get there and even find that out.
Right.
But speak to me too about, I have adult children and I'm watching them. Back in the day, we didn't really have opportunities as young adults to invest. Tell me about some of the rabbit trails that I see some younger people taking today with things like Robinhood. I've witnessed my kids lose, and invest a lot of money where had they perhaps invested through, Affinitive, that money would still be there working for them. And, that's the market that seems to be, speaking to or trying to pull in young adults and even a lot of people that don't understand investing. Just speak to me, a little bit about that and the reality around that.
Yeah, and this is one of the really damaging components of sort of the culture of financial advisory and sort of like that status quo way, because it's first of all, it's intimidating when you walk into an office. It's mahogany wood and pictures of eagles and somebody at a front desk cold answering phones, have a seat, so and so, whatever, so that model, which has sort of disenfranchised, right, a lot of the population, and even in my generation and my parents' generation, right, it's an intimidating and sort of belittling environment that just doesn't sit well with people. And so and look, a lot of financial advisors over the course of time have taken advantage of people. They've misguided them. They've made recommendations that benefit them greatly and may also kind of benefit or even truly benefit the person. But the orientation and the thought process is really around, how do I meet goals? How do I sell so much that I earn the living that I want to earn? What products will do that for me? And so that misguidance and that misguided way of operating has disenfranchised a generation. And we know that. We see that playing out right through the birth of companies like Robinhood, right? That are like, forget that. You don't need that. You can do it, right? Here's this platform. You can do it cheaply. You can buy and we'll educate you and read articles and you can make the stock pick choices, through platforms like Reddit, right? We see that play out in this whole GameStop debacle that played out, right, last year. And ultimately, right, what has happened because of that, we've also seen play out, right? A ton of people losing a whole bunch of money because they think they are fully equipped to analyze and choose investments, specifically even stock investments, which are far more volatile and carry a great deal more risk than if we use vehicles like, mutual funds and ETFs, where we can kind of spread our risk out across different companies, right? Or a number of companies. So what has happened with this sort of, dare I say it, Robin Hood revolution, right? Is as people, and specifically, right, sort of the millennial generation, our younger generation. I say the millennial generation. I'm right at the cusp of that, right? So it's up for debate whether I'm millennial or not. But ultimately, the younger generation has unfortunately kind of almost been duped a little bit, right, into believing that if I read an article, right, if I pay attention to what all the pundits are saying, right, all the talking heads on whatever platform or channel are saying, that now I'm equipped to be, my own investment manager. And for some people who are giving a great deal of attention and they're doing lots of homework to understand how investing works, how company revenues affect stock prices and all that kind of stuff, like, great. I'm like, more power to you, right? If you're going to do all the homework and you're going to spend the attention and the time to really dig in and pay attention, right? Great. Do that. More power to you. The vast majority of people don't have that bandwidth. They don't have that time. And their mind is occupied with far more things, and they don't have the even the desire to learn all those things. So they read something, they hear something, they buy something. And a lot of times that results in big losses, which they can't necessarily afford to experience. And then they become disenfranchised. Maybe they stop investing, or just overall, it's not a beneficial outcome for them. So, this really is one of those places where you can see our values and our beliefs right out front. Why we're here is to help people succeed, to help them not only succeed financially, but to start to learn to succeed personally, to be the force for change in the world that they want to be. And supporting the whole human is a critical component of why we do what we do. And so, look, Robinhood is what it is, right? There are lots of companies that have really shown up in the same way over the course of time, right? Ultimately, we are just very interested in really bringing the high level management for people so that they don't have to occupy all of that brain space and bandwidth with, like, are my investments, in the right place? Am I investing in companies that are doing harm in the world? All of those kinds of things, to put that stuff to rest for them, and so that they can know my money is in the right place. It's aligned with my values, and it's aligned with my goal, right? To grow that money so that someday, I don't have to work for my money works for me. And I think it's just such a critical component. And so those who are listening, right, who have put their accounts with Robinhood or Fidelity or whatever other self-directed platform, and you're feeling like you just don't know if you're in the right place. Are you positioned for this bubble that's going to burst, or this industry segment that's going to decline, or whatever? Stop by affinitive.com and check it out, and read the articles and feel us out, because we're happy to help. We want to help people, so that's why we're here.
I love it. And I think people want that more. I think there's almost a conjuring up of people who want to be more in alignment with all their relationships, especially money.
For sure.
So before we close today, I'm curious about something. Share with me a little about your statement, leave it better. I know that's a big part of your business motto, and I'm curious, what does leave it better actually mean to you?
I've the thing about it's, you know, you said it's sort of like my my motto in business, right? And it truly is my motto in life. It is something that it's like my North Star. It's my guiding principle. And it's such a deep meaning for me. It's actually something that my grandfather that I got from my grandfather, who was a great, I mean, he was like a father to me. He was a great source of support and inspiration to me growing up and all throughout my life. And, you know, he just lived it. He was just such a kind human being. He would give you the shirt off his back in 25-degree weather if he thought it would help you. And so I learned a great deal through his actions. And I've tried to recall so many times how old I was when he said these words to me, but there was a point where he said to me in a conversation, something was going on in my life, and he said, Brandon, no matter what company you're a part of, what community you live in, what group you know become a part of, always strive to leave that place, person, or thing, situation better than you found it. And at the time, you know, I was, you know, in my teens, and at the time it didn't, you know, I heard him, right? But it didn't really, it wasn't concrete, right? It didn't really fully land with me, the gravity and the power of that statement. And as I've gone through my life and all the trials and tribulations and challenges that I've faced, which are many, and I'm, you know, I know I'm not alone in that. What Leave It Better has really come to be and mean for me is that it is my duty, it is every human being's duty to do their best to leave things better than they found them. And that's a case by case thing, right? That's not a judgment of what I believe is better than I found it, right? It really is a curiosity and kind of like a beginner's mind of what is leaving a person better, like them being better when they leave us or me. What does that better mean to them? What does that better look like for that community? What does that better look like for that company? What is their vision of better than it was? And so like, for me, it's like, and I get full body goosebumps as I talk about it, because it really is me living out my grandfather's legacy, of that lesson that he taught me. And whether he knew that he was teaching me something like so powerful in that moment or not, I know now that, you know, he's no longer with us, unfortunately, but I know that he sees it, that he is proud that what I get to do every day is really go into the world and just strive to leave things better for everyone than I found. So
It's really relatable and it's believable. I totally see your, you know, heart in everything you do. And, you know, I'd love to, you know, maybe close with let people know how can they find you, where can they find you, and, you know, tell us a little bit about your Affinitive platform.
yeah, I mean, you can obviously find us at affinitive.com, and you know, there's lots of me on that site through the articles and, you know, blog posts that I've written. You can find me at brandontrammell.com. That's 2 M's and 2 L's. It's been misspelled my whole life, so I'm used to it.
Okay.
But you know, you go to brandontrammell.com and really a lot of me is on that site. My beliefs, my values, my experiences. You can find Purpose Financial's page as a, you know, in the little sandwich menu up at the top as well. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on the socials, right? Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. That's where I play. And you can find Purpose Financial and insurance services on all of those platforms as well. So, if you're wanting to get in touch with me, I don't think there's any shortage of ways to do that. I try to make myself as available as possible. And, truthfully, and I have to bring it up because I always forget the number, but the community platform, I've formed a text community because I find that the algorithms of social media tend to stifle and direct content and people's ability to see that in their feeds. And so, I created a text community where I share my tidbits, experiences, inspirations, and meditations, and all those kind of great things. So if you text me at 707-285-9067, text purpose to that number, or leave it better to that number, then you get to join the community and you get to hear my tidbits, unfiltered, unrefined, and it's often messy, but real, just the real. So I think those are the best ways to find me and get in touch and connect.
That's awesome. It's not only wise, but it's a creative way to interact with people and let them, really get to know you. So
Mm.
we'll be sure to include those links, in the information below. And thanks so much, Brandon. You've cleared up so many things for me, just about money in general. And I'm excited. I'm excited for people to know that people like you are out there and that you exist and that you have a heart to serve.
Well, thank you. I want to express my gratitude to you because truthfully, a conversation or interview or fireside chat, which by the way, that fire is looking real cozy, by the way. I wish I was sitting next to it. It is really only as valuable and inspirational as the parties involved in it and what they give to it. And so I want to express my gratitude to you for holding space for this conversation, for asking the questions that you did, and really inspiring in me being able to share my heart, because oftentimes I tend to guard it a little more than I should, and I just truly appreciate you holding space and asking the questions that you did, because I always enjoy every conversation we have. So I appreciate you.
Thanks so much for that, Brandon. It was an honor to be able to share this space with you. And I think it's an honor for people to hear this. I think people need to hear conversations like this.
Yeah.
So thanks for, bringing the human factor here today.
Thank you.